Snow White is the film that put Disney on the map, their biggest movie ever in some categories. But if you watch this till the end, I think you will agree, Disney might need to be 5150 or at least have an intervention to keep from harming itself any further with horrible remakes on today's episode of 5 Weird Things. Welcome to the channel. Now, I first saw Snow White when I was a little kid sitting between my parents in the front seat of my dad's van at a drive-in movie. What's your opinion? Snow White remake? About damn time, or how dare they? Let me know down in the comments. All right, let's get into it. First, the very brief, what we need to know. The original Snow White was a timeless fairy tale filled with magic, romance, and lovable characters. It had charm, heart, and a simple story that somehow captivated audiences for nearly a century. The 2025 remake? Well, it's got this princess and a villain and something resembling a plot, but instead of embracing what made the original special, it's been reimagined into a modernized, message-heavy spectacle that feels more like a corporate checklist than a fairy tale. Because who needs whimsy and charm when you can have a progressive chewing out type of lesson instead of a story? Everybody got that? Good. Weird thing number 5, woke Disney. Now, Disney has a habit of taking beloved animated classics, stuffing them with modern sensitivities, and then acting surprised when audiences don't show up. It's like making grandma's famous apple pie, but instead of the apples, you replace it with kale. And sure, it's technically still a pie, but nobody asked for it, nobody wants it. Take The Little Mermaid, 2023. Despite endless online debates, it underperformed in the box office compared to other Disney remakes. Audience didn't reject Ariel's updated story. They just weren't thrilled with the murky CGI fish in a script that felt more like a checklist of modern talking points than magical undersea adventures. Then there was Dumbo, 2019. A Tim Burton directed reimagining that stripped out talking animals and replaced them with circus politics. Turns out, people didn't go to Dumbo for social commentary. They went for a flying elephant. Well, who knew? Mulan, 2020. Another major flop. Disney removed the beloved songs, ditched Mushu for historical accuracy, and then added a new Mary Sue-style warrior with magical abilities. The result? A joyless film that didn't appeal to Mulan fans or history buffs, neither one. Now with Snow White, 2025, let's remove the prince, the dwarves, possibly the fun. Disney is once again testing how much nostalgia they can erase before the audiences revolt. The lesson? You want to update a classic? Fine. But maybe don't drain all the charm out of it in the process. Otherwise, the biggest fairy tale is Disney believing that remakes are going to make them money. Weird thing number 4, the casting. Snow White, 2025. The Snow White remake in 2025 just hit the theaters, but all the time leading up till then made more headlines than the plot. And not for good reasons. The biggest controversy? Casting choices, which have somehow managed to irritate everyone. First, there's Snow White herself, played by Rachel Zegler. When fans questioned why Disney cast a Latina actress for a role of a princess whose defining feature, literally in her name, is having skin as white as snow, Zegler didn't exactly help her case. Playing the iconic role of a beautiful forest girl, she can pull it off. She's a very attractive girl, but instead of gracefully embracing the role, she called the original Snow White weird, said she wasn't a fan, Prince Charming stalking people. Nothing says perfect for this remake like an actress who seems mildly annoyed that she has to star in it at all. Turns out that fans don't like it when you crap on their favorite childhood memories. Weird, weird. Then there's the case of the 7 dwarves, or rather, the 7 not dwarves. Disney swapped them out for a diverse group of magical creatures to avoid stereotypes, which managed to upset both those who wanted traditional dwarves and members of the dwarf community who felt they had been erased. So, in trying to avoid one controversy, Disney ran face first into a couple more. Another issue is that Gal Gadot as the evil queen. She's supposed to be an attractive woman who is simply not as lovely as Snow White. Here's the problem. Rachel Zegler is a pretty girl. Gal Gadot is a stunning woman. The movie should be about 5 minutes long. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? You are. Fade to black, roll credits. Meanwhile, Prince Charming, barely in the movie. Evil Queen, arguably the only thing that might be fun to watch. At this point, Disney could have saved everyone the trouble and called it Snow White and the 7 DEI focus groups. Moral of the story? Maybe cast actors who actually like the original film. And, I don't know, maybe keep the characters that people love? Just a thought, Disney. Weird thing number 3. The 1937 version did have issues. Now this is actually the funniest part of all. The 1937 film, like all films of a previous era, had the mores and values of that time, and those mores and values have changed over the years. Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs 37 may be a beloved classic, but if you take a closer look, it's also deeply weird. Here are some of the strange things about the first ever full-length animated feature film. First off, let's talk about Snow White's age. According to the source material, Snow White's 14 years old. Meanwhile, the prince, who looks like he's been paying taxes for about a decade, is totally cool with kissing her while she's in a magic coma. Keep in mind, in that era, a 14-year-old might have been married for a year with a kid already. Ah yes, true love or medieval level creepiness, you decide. But watch how you answer this one. Rachel Zegler all but destroyed her career over this question. Then there's the Queen's death, which was supposed to be way more gruesome. In early versions, she didn't just fall off a cliff, she was forced to dance in red-hot iron shoes until she dropped dead. Because nothing says a kid's movie like a little medieval torture. Oh, and the animators? They weren't allowed to use actual women as references. Walt Disney thought female cartoon characters should be more appealing than real women. So artists had to wing it. But that's why Snow White moves like a 1930s ballerina on a sugar rush. Also, let's not forget that the dwarves originally had horrible names. Awful, Burpy, and Deafy. Imagine a dramatic scene where Snow White cries out, "Help me, Awful." That would have changed the tone of the movie. Now, in the end, Snow White became a masterpiece, but let's be honest, if it were made today, it would come with about 12 trigger warnings and a whole lot of explaining. Weird thing number 2. As a musical, the remake pales in comparison. One of the most baffling choices in Disney's Snow White 2025 remake is the lack of classic songs, a decision that makes about as much sense as a poisoned apple being part of a healthy diet. The 1937 original wasn't just Disney's first animated feature, it was also Hollywood's first animated musical. Songs like Hi Ho, Whistle While You Work, and Someday My Prince Will Come weren't just catchy, they defined the movie's charm. These were the signature songs. The dwarf whistled their way to work, Snow White sang through her chores, and the music helped create an atmosphere of pure fairy tale magic. Now fast forward to the 2025 remake, where reports suggest that the musical elements have been drastically reduced or removed entirely. I mentioned it came out, I think a couple days ago. I haven't seen it. I don't think I will see it. But Rachel Zegler, even as annoying as she is, has a Broadway-level voice. Now, she's seemingly been cast in a low-singing version of Snow White, which is a lot like hiring Michael Jordan to just sit on the bench. If you're gonna remove the songs, why not just make an entirely different movie instead of gutting a classic? This isn't the first time Disney has done this. Mulan 2020, anyone? But it proves that they still don't understand why audiences love their animated classics. The original Snow White wasn't just a story. It was a musical fantasy that enchanted generations. Strip away the songs, and all you have left is a generic, overly serious fairy tale that completely misses the point. At this rate, the only thing left to whistle while we work is our disappointment. And finally, weird thing number 1. The Disney woke remake experiment keeps failing. Now, Disney used to be the gold standard for magical storytelling, but lately, their movies have been flopping harder than Goofy on roller skates. The biggest offender on the horizon? Gotta be Snow White, the remake so aggressively modernized that it barely resembles the fairy tale it's based on. You got the Seven Dwarfs replaced with magical creatures, and then in the last minute, CGI dwarfs that look so out of place they don't lend anything to the story. Now the prince, practically non-existent because heaven forbid Snow White have a love story in a fairy tale. And let's not forget lead actress Rachel Zegler calling the original Snow White weird and mocking the romance. I still don't think of this as beating a dead horse, by the way, but if you hate the source material that much, why are you starring in it? And let's not forget Disney's track record with woke remakes. We've got Little Mermaid, struggled despite a massive budget. Lightyear 2022 somehow lost money despite being a Toy Story spinoff. Puts Toy Story on anything and it makes it like it's covered in gold now. And The Marvels, 2023. I actually like this film, but it did bomb so hard that even Marvel diehards shrugged. The common thread? Audiences are tired of Disney stripping beloved stories of their magic just to make them fit into a modern checklist. The pattern is clear. When Disney focuses on lecturing audiences instead of entertaining them, people tune out. Please pay attention to that, Disney. Fairy tales have lasted for centuries because they're simple, charming, and timeless. If you strip away everything magical about Snow White in an attempt to be more modern, do not be surprised when audiences say, no thanks, we're going to stay with the original. Now at this point, the evil queen's poison apple isn't the real threat. Disney's own choices are. Well, that's it for today's episode. I hope it made you whistle while you watched. Nothing? Okay, my bad. Now do me a favor, click on those videos above. I would really appreciate it. Take care and have a great day.